Hello, Melton Guy here, and I'm taking another look. Hope you'll take it with me. I'm going to talk about several ideas. There are many ideas that need to be expressed and hopefully have the ability to get across to the general citizenry of this country what we have seen in the last several years and what's coming up in this year, a very, very important election. I want to ask you something. Maybe your memory won't go back as far as mine. I don't know why I remember this, but you remember when you took typing in high school? And if you remember that, now that was back, for me, it was in the 66, 67, 68, that time, which was a couple of years ago. But you remember one of the most used lines for praxis in your typing class? Probably one of the first things you were taught to type. You remember that? Once I start, you'll probably remember. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. That was a line by Charles E. Weller. I have no idea who the man is. All I know that he was a typist teacher. And he came up with that. It first read, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their party. I really don't know what that meant, but he changed it to country because it was exactly, with quotation mark, it was exactly 70 characters, which is one line on a typewriter without having to move the carriage back. So it meant absolutely nothing. It was not a call to arms. It was, or was it an SOS or a Mayday signal for us to, or anyone to immediately militarize? So as I said, it actually meant nothing then. But it dangerously, urgently, and profoundly, for damn sure, excuse my French, means everything now, today, tomorrow, like no call to action this country has ever known or experienced since its beginning in any way. I never say God bless America anymore. My thoughts and prayers along those lines is I say, God, help us save our country. Help us save this country. The theme of this podcast today is, it seems we can't get it right. Democracy is not on the line. It's fallen and it can't get up. Why? Why can't we get back on our feet? I'm going to express a couple of points that to me is very clear, are very clear. I want you to just help me along here by just opening your mind to these ideas. Number one, why can't we get it right? Why can't we move on from the trauma that this country has experienced and has experienced for some while since the beginning of a man by the name of Donald J. Trump and the MAGA Republicans? Number one, our judges. The judges seem to be cowards. They seem to be, if you will, in that proverbial pocket of somebody. And many times, it's simply they do not know what they're doing. They are cowards in the sense that They think about what might happen to them if they make this rule. The Constitution has been ignored so many times just in the latest weeks and couple of months. No regard for what the Constitution is saying. The Supreme Court judges just hem-haw around everything, deciding to take time to see how this is going to affect, and that's what I believe, how it's going to affect each of them. I mean, my God, we have people on our Supreme Court that 5 decades ago, they would have been ostracized and laughed at for even considering appointment to that Clarence Thomas. He should not be taking up a seat on our Supreme Court. He should be taking up room in a cell somewhere in this country in some prison. And the same for Justice Kavanaugh. You know it, and I know it. We might choose to overlook it, but it is there, and it is true. And I do not mean just simply the Supreme Court judges. I mean judges from the Supreme Court all the way down to the smallest city judges. Now, I know I'm not all fit into this. I don't think. But judges have seen in the last several years have missed the boat on what their job is all about. The supreme law of this country is the Constitution. And not only has it been ignored, it has been trampled by judges, cowardly judges. Now, if you're offended and you're a judge, do something to change my mind, because I haven't seen anything in the last few days, including this week. The breaks that Donald Trump gets, nobody else in this country would get. And they get them because of cowardly justices, cowardly judges. All right, moving on from judges. They aren't totally to blame. You and me. We sit back and we listen to things and we keep our mouths shut. We're afraid to talk out in public because we don't want to be confronted. We don't want to be confrontational. We don't want to make anybody mad. Wherever we go, it seems today that we just let things happen. Whatever's going on in politics, we just let it happen. You know, and I know that the Republican Party's nominee should not be a man of the caliber of Donald Trump. And some of you are going to hear this and say, well, I don't see anything wrong with him. I know that. And that's what I'm talking about. If you do not know it, why do you not know it? You and I are responsible for a lot of what is taking place today, for the downfall that we have seen in this country, the loss of respect to the rest of the world. They make fun of us. I've watched program after program from television stations across Europe and other places, and it seems the major theme is making fun of this country, allowing someone like Donald Trump to even be in the public eye. And you and I allow that. We could have done things to make it better. We could have done things to stop it. But we sit back and we let it happen, keeping our big mouths shut because we don't want to be confrontational. Number 3, Democrats. My daddy told me so many times, son, if you want to be heard, you have to speak up. I was very, very shy as a child. I don't know if I was an introvert or was just absolutely shy, but I was very shy, and I spoke in a low voice, if you will. And my daddy told me over and over again, son, you're going to have to speak up. If you want to go anywhere, you want to do anything, you want to be successful, if you want to be heard, you're going to have to speak up. And that's what I'm saying to Democrats, and what I've been saying for some time now. We need to be speaking up as Democrats. Democrats need to be shouting as loud or louder than these MAGA Republicans that are trying to tear this nation down. You know it as you sit there talking in that low voice that they're doing it. That fiery speech that President Biden made on the State of the Union address should be the way that he is speaking every day. And not only us, but Democratic congressmen and congresswomen should be speaking that same way and just as loud and fiery. It's not a matter of fighting fire with fire. It's a matter of doing what we're supposed to do to make sure this country is running tomorrow and the next day and the next. So Democrats have a lot of the blame for what's taking place just because they do not speak up. We're not heard because we talk in a low voice, and the MAGA Republicans, they sound like roaring lions. We won't accomplish anything allowing that to happen. And another thing, number 4, Republicans. I agree with Tennessee Brando when he says the Republicans today are not the Republicans of our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers, and et cetera, et cetera. However, the question is really, is it going to be the Republican Party of our great-grandchildren? That's the question. Is this going to be my grandchild's Republican Party or my great-grandchild's Republican Party? I pray that my grandchildren will never hear the evil terms like Trumpkins and MAGAs. They have made a mockery of our judicial system. They have made a mockery of our political system. And they have made a mockery of our personal faith and philosophies. And they do not care. They're proud of it. I'm talking about today's Republicans. I'm not talking about Mitt Romney and George W. Bush and George Bush and Ronald Reagan. I'm talking about today's so-called Republicans. As I said at one time, they are the real rhinos. They are Republican in name only. They're calling others rhinos, but they themselves are the rhinos. In the Republican Party, you got to look within yourself. Nobody can change you but you. And number 5, religion, faith, church, Christians, evangelicals. The sourness of once revered old bodies decaying. Something stinks. And it is the decaying bodies of these institutions that we have held so dearly. We've allowed them to become decayed in the filth of people who look out for themselves, care about no one else, and we keep our mouths shut and we let it happen. And all that I mentioned before, among the Democrats, you and me, the Republicans, all of that has filtered its way down or up, however you like it, to our religion, to our faith, to our personal church as Christians. But most of all, looking at all the above that I mentioned and their free reign, it feels more every day that this country, its churches, preachers, and the wolves calling themselves evangelicals, MAGA Republicans, Trump and company, and all the crowds at those rallies, all of these simply do not give a shit about what will be left of democracy in January of 2025. They do not. I've listened, not just yesterday or the day before yesterday, but over time I have listened to many of the people talking at the Democratic rallies, Republican rallies, the MAGA rallies, MAGA Trump rallies, they are the most interesting. I listened to one just yesterday. It may have been said a lot earlier, but I heard it yesterday. A man said at a MAGA rally, sitting there wearing a Trump hat, if Trump murders someone on the White House steps, my God, I'm with him. Another said, if Trump wants to become a dictator, I'm good with that. They were asked simple questions about the Constitution. They couldn't answer. Didn't know what they were talking about. I listened to all this and many other things, and it dawned on me, and I may be the last person in this country to realize it, but MAGA, Trump, these brain surgeons at these rallies, the Trump loyalists and maniacally insane slugs, these are not worried about saving of this country. On the contrary, they are about destroying this country and putting their wannabe lover, yes, lover, and you can take that any way you want it, because I don't care, from the brawniest man to the weakest woman, they would do exactly what Donald Trump asked them to do for and to him. I believe that, just from what I have seen and witnessed. Their wannabe lover, yes, lover, they want to put him in a dictatorship or worse position of power, and there are things worse. But if we're going to ask ourselves questions, or questions in general, the most vital query is this, and I'm asking this with little hope remaining: who will die first? The United States of America or Donald Trump? I'll leave you with your thoughts. Again, I plug my book, The Offspring of Ignorance. I hope that you might want to buy it, and I would appreciate it. I want to shout out again for Tennessee Brando and also for Owen Morgan on YouTube. I think you'll like them, and I think you'll learn things. If you will, remember to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and please subscribe, not only to me, but to Tennessee and Owen on their YouTube channels. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.